major AEW injury has been confirmed, but first, CM Punk has made his return to Monday Night Raw. This past weekend, the future of CM Punk would be revealed when he made a dramatic surprise appearance at the end of Survivor Series, this in his hometown of Chicago. Fans would eagerly anticipate what he would say last night on Raw, and if we're honest, fans had to sit through a less than spectacular 3 hours of television to get to the moment they were waiting for, but was it worth the wait? First, let's cover what the expectations were heading into the show, as Ibu of Wrestle Purist, somebody with direct links to the CM Punk camp and even Punk himself, would reveal that he was told the Second City Saints had big plans to take shots at AEW, the company that recently fired him, and Ibu would say this on the Wrestle Purist podcast. CM Punk is going to torch AEW tonight, say what he's legally allowed to say. AEW got wind of that and suggested talent should tweet to show the unity of AEW's locker room. This appears to explain the sudden rush of public love for AEW from many members of the staff and roster, although it seems they had little to worry about. Once the less than 7 or so minute promo came around, we got something that was nowhere near as controversial, with Punk pretty much ignoring his past situation from his time as All Elite. First, let's set the scene by discussing Seth Rollins' promo from earlier in the night, where he would take a shot at CM Punk, this to cut off some CM Punk chants, and Seth would say, "Come on, is that all you've got, CM Punk fans? Come on, get out your system, because I tell you what, I don't want to spend one more second, one more ounce of energy on that hypocrite. So instead of talking about somebody that don't matter at all, why don't we talk about the thing that matters the most? Why don't we talk about the title that for the last 6 months I have built into the most important championship in this entire industry?" This line would be a continuation of the ongoing beef between Rollins and Punk that saw the current WWE World Heavyweight Champion react less than favorably towards the return at Survivor Series, this after previously calling him a cancer in interviews. The line on Raw appears to further suggest that the two men will be working together in an angle in the near future, with Punk's later promo confirming claims that he may well be the hypocrite that Rollins said he is. Rather than the heartfelt promo we saw when Punk debuted in AEW, or the fired up you to the haters that we saw on the debut episode of AEW Collision, we got a much more happy to be there approach and somewhat disingenuous promo from the divisive star, with questions being raised on if this was on purpose or not. Punk would reveal that what he is about to say is a little corny and a little bit cheesy, and it won't sound like the CM Punk we've known till this point, before going on to talk of his happiness to finally be home in WWE, noting that he's changed. He would then run for a repeat of his AEW debut promo, telling fans that he came back because they never stopped chanting his name and because he loves them. Punk would then reference a conversation that he had with Paul Heyman, who told him that in order to get everything that he needs from this place, he has to leave and come back, perhaps sowing the seeds for a rivalry with Roman Reigns somewhere down the line. He would then rubbish talk that people aren't happy to see him backstage, adding that everybody has welcomed him back with open arms, well, almost everybody, before saying that there are a couple of people afraid that he's just set the bar to an unattainable level. This, of course, in reference to the recent rumors that Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins are unhappy with his presence. He'd add that they're afraid that the most controversial and feared man in this industry just walked through the door and there's nothing they can do about it, with the feared line appearing to be in reference to Tony Khan's claims that he feared for his life. He'd then close by saying that he's not here to make friends, but he's here to make money. Whilst I do say that the promo didn't quite land as well as what many would have hoped, and it wasn't quite as vicious as many had hoped, it does set the scene for a potential new corporate CM Punk or PG Punk going forward. That is, if this approach was by design and not due to a strict script in WWE land. Whilst many have labelled Punk a sellout for running back to WWE and delivering such a cookie-cutter promo, something tells me this will eventually position him as a heel in the feud with Seth Rollins, who will be the one defending WWE from him, with Punk simply looking to cash in and take advantage of WWE's boom in popularity. This something Rollins has been there for the whole time. With that said, the lack of bite could be linked to the segment being cut short due to Randy Orton versus Dominic Mysterio in the main event going long, something that was reported by PW Insider earlier today, with there being some material that needed to be scrapped. With that said, they did note that there were never any plans for Punk to rip into AEW or Tony Khan. With all that in mind, much like CM Punk Punk said in AEW, people may want to see the old CM Punk, but be careful what you wish for. But what are your thoughts on last night's CM Punk promo, and did you sit through 3 hours of Raw waiting for it? Let me know in the comments down below. And next, an AEW name has announced that they are leaving the company. Since the inception of All Elite Wrestling, QT Marshall has played a key role behind the scenes when it comes to the on-screen creative process, with him once viewed as Tony Khan's right-hand man despite his lack of push in the ring itself. With that said, QT would take to social media last night to confirm that his days in AEW are over, citing a difference of opinion in which the company are heading, and he would write, "Thank you AEW, thank you Tony Khan. I've had the privilege of being here since day one and have written over 750 different formats for All Elite Wrestling, and always with pride. As much as I've enjoyed being a VP, manager of talent relations, and wearing a myriad of hats, the company has changed a lot since 2019 and is heading in a different direction, and I feel that it's best I do the same as we only get one chance to go all in. I've officially resigned from AEW and will have fulfilled all obligations by the end of 2023. Thank you to everybody from the front office to the production truck to some of the hardest working talent in the sport. Most importantly, thank you to those who booed, cheered, and took part in this season of my life." According to a report from House of Wrestling that claims that AEW were heading in a different direction, a link to QT feeling that he believes AEW is heading in a more New Japan Pro-Wrestling style direction that is more focused on matches rather than storytelling. The report adds more details as to Marshall's apparent loss of influence backstage, and they would add, House of Wrestling has learned that following Cody Rhodes' departure from AEW, Marshall's backstage influence began to deteriorate quickly. While still liked by many, others closer to those in power were given a chance to work alongside Tony Khan. At the same time, Marshall has become vocal about his desire to work as an in-ring performer rather than a backstage coach. Due to those reasons, everyone I've spoken with in AEW and WWE since Marshall's announcement last night has not been surprised by his decision. And next, a major AEW injury has been confirmed. MJF is in the midst of the longest AEW World Championship reign in company history, this as he heads into his hometown of Long Island to defend his title against Samoa Joe on December 30 at World's End. With that said, at the most recent AEW pay-per-view, Full Gear, champion would reportedly suffer from an undisclosed shoulder injury, although no further information was known as to the damage caused. Well, last night, Max would take to X to reveal the details of his injury following an MRI scan, with it looking like bad news for his short-term plans, and he would write, "I just got an MRI. I tore my labrum in my left shoulder. I'll be defending my title at World's End, I believe, in AEW." The post would pretty much immediately be deleted, however, it already caught the eyes of fans, with screenshots appearing across social media. Fightful Select would then follow up with a report confirming that the injury is legitimate, and they would write, MJF just tweeted and deleted details regarding an injury he sustained that we've been told is legitimate. MJF tweeted that he has a torn labrum after getting an MRI. Whilst we can't confirm ourselves that he got an MRI, he had told people at AEW last week that he believed he'd torn his shoulder. He's still expected to compete at AEW World's End. He'll be undergoing treatment and hoping to avoid surgery. He sustained the injury during the AEW Full Gear top rope Uranagi spot. He'd sustained a hip injury during the elbow drop to the outside. Whilst we have no official news on the recovery time required in MJF's specific case, HopkinsMedicine.org notes that it takes at least 4 to 6 weeks for a torn labrum to reattach itself to the rim of the bone, and it can take another 4 to 6 weeks to get strong again. The news comes ahead of the event based around MJF entirely, with World's End being the last scheduled date before his contract supposedly expires in January 2024. This when AEW heads to his hometown of Long Island for the World's End pay-per-view. As we recently noted, House of Wrestling sources within WWE believe that the contract situation is part of a storyline and that talks had not been held with Max over making the jump despite teasers of a bidding war of 2024, adding that his contract is potentially till 2027, but regardless of if this is true, AEW clearly have big plans for the New York show. The January 2024 expiry date angle has been hyped for a long time at this point, with the injury news being yet another a blow that will likely affect plans in the short term, though the match is still apparently scheduled to take place. First, we had MJF's late 2022 plans scuppered by an injury to CM Punk and then the whole Brawl Out debacle at All Out. This after Max returned as the Devil. Then the recent injury to Adam Cole had a big impact on their enemies turned best friends angle, and now both the ongoing Mystery Devil and Bidding War of 2024 angles have likely been affected by the torn labrum suffered by the champ himself. But do you think the fresh injury could lead to MJF dropping the AEW World title to Samoa Joe at World's End? Let me know in the comments down below. And before you go, make sure you check out 10 facts that MJF doesn't want you to know.